What is going on, guys? My name is Jake Cantu. I'm joined alongside Evan Sully for another edition of the Big D Live. Whether you're listening on our podcast on Acre FM or on the YouTube channel, seeing our beautiful faces. Evan Sully, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Was able to get a nice haircut this morning, so I'm feeling great. How about you?
I love it. I need to go get mine before the whole Thanksgiving week comes up, but I'm doing well. The cold has definitely hit in Chicago now, and we had our first snow yesterday, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was yesterday where it just went fast, just came down fast. And I'm in a high rise right now, yeah. So it's pretty cool and pretty different. You see the difference, from like being in downtown or like being outside. If anyone knows the Chicago area, being like in Lincoln Park or something, right?
Oh yeah, I bet it's a bit different.
A little bit different. You see the snowflakes more; they're a little thicker, but it could have been that snow. But as the snow is falling. The Mavericks, we felt like they were falling for a little bit there until last night's game, huh?
Yes, we did. I was getting a bit concerned after Wednesday night's loss to the Bulls in Chicago, where you are, but I'm glad the Mavs bounced back last night against the Spurs, and they've now beaten them 3 times this season.
3 times
12 games.
Yeah, and this was the most comfortable we've seen them beat the Spurs. Now the Spurs have been pretty decent, and they've, I know their record doesn't support that as well, but they've lost some pretty close games to some decent teams.
They have. They fight hard.
They definitely do fight hard. Any team under Greg Popovich is going to fight hard, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we can also look over real quick that Bulls and Mavs game. I mean, that Bulls team just is so fun to watch. Yeah, you just have to give them the credit.
Yeah, the Bulls team is definitely fun to watch, although the Mavs definitely hung in there in both the first quarter and you could say probably the entirety of the first half. It was just a mismatch of talent, I thought. That was the key difference.
I agree. And then past that third quarter, it started to slip down. But we're seeing teams like also the Atlanta Hawks starting to lose their gripping in the third quarter. Heck, you could even throw in the Lakers. There's a lot of teams struggling in that department as well. But going back to that Spurs game, this is what this team should look like, right? Having a duo of Porzingis and Doncic. This is what, you don't want them to put up 32 points each and every night because, after a while, right, it's tiring on them. But tell me that didn't feel good to watch.
That definitely felt great to watch. It seems like we've been waiting all season. I'll say all season like it's been forever, just these 12 games for the Mavs to win comfortably. And it looks like they finally did last night.
No, it definitely did. And, man, Porzingis was running the floor.
He was.
It was, even from his half-court shots in the first half, Luka was finding him no-look passes behind the back. It was insane. Luka was even looking most of the time to find him to throw a pass. The chemistry, you were starting to see it transition to the court. And as a Mavs fan, it makes your heart warm. Now, there's some still issues to fix. We don't have to get too picky right now. But it was definitely good to see both of them, really play to their expectations.
Definitely. It's always a good thing when the duo of Luka and Porzingis both score above 30 points.
Now, did you see a difference of using Porzingis this did you see him more playing kind of Dwight Powell's role? Or, what was the difference you think was in this game that Porzingis was able to stretch the floor a little bit more?
Well, I thought Porzingis was able to stretch the floor a bit more, actually, in part because of how little Dwight Powell played. I think Dwight Powell only played 16 minutes, which is a season low for him thus far. And it definitely helped open up the floor for Porzingis. And hopefully that experiment, as Jason Kidd loves to use the word experiment, of Dwight Powell playing just 16 minutes helped open the floor for Porzingis, and it helped him stretch the floor. And he got more opportunities. Not just on the baseline with his little baseline jumpers that he liked, but also in the post and behind the three-point line too. So I think this was a learning curve that Porzingis can definitely fit more into that 5 spot, but in order to do that, Dwight Powell's minutes have to decline by a bit.
And I think a lot of Mavs fans would be totally okay with that. But not to discredit, though, Dwight Powell. I thought he had a decent game yesterday.
Yeah, no, he did.
Fighting for rebounds. A couple alley-oops from Luka that he knocked down. So nothing to discredit from Dwight Powell, but that Porzingis I feel like Porzingis just flourishes in his role a lot better.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I agree. And do you think that's because Dwight Powell was not on the court as often as he has been this season?
uh, I don't. I think it's a little bit of both. I just think that Porzingis is just an overall better player, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Porzingis obviously has that three ball, and he can shoot. Not Dwight Powell. We've seen him knock down a couple threes, knock down a couple jumpers, but it's just a size advantage that
Mhm.
Porzingis has. Now it gets. I still clutch my heart a little bit when I see Porzingis go for a dunk and land. I don't
Oh yeah.
know if that's something you do, but Porzingis just fits that role a lot better, especially for Doncic's game. Um,
Mhm.
Doncic excels obviously well off the pick and roll, and again, nothing to discredit Dwight Powell because he has done well previously, and prior to that, what he have a torn Achilles or torn ACL a
He
couple.
tore his Achilles. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think obviously that's affected him coming back, but
Oh,
Porzingis
definitely.
just looks a lot better, more comfortable in that position.
He definitely does. And I also think that it helps Porzingis when he does rest. I know he missed a few games due to what I say was a back injury, but I
Yeah,
actually think it's helpful when Porzingis isn't playing every single game. I think it helps when he has these periodic breaks so that he can bounce back and be a bit more stable when he's on the floor.
I actually agree with you there. It's a long season, no need to. That's when that load management kind of controversy comes up. But for someone like who is injury prone, as
Yeah.
I call it for Porzingis, I think it's not a bad idea for Kid to implement and see what he can do there, looking to the schedule. But as we look through our schedule, I prompted the next question of this team. They lost to the Bulls, right? They lost to the Nuggets. They lost to these good teams that are above 500 or even. Is this a problem and pattern that we're going to continue to see? And when do you think they're going to break the streak?
So to answer your first question, not to be too pessimistic, but I just want to be brutally honest. I think the Mavs are going to continue to struggle against good teams, especially to start the game. We've seen them get off to very slow starts against teams like the Hawks and the Denver Nuggets. And these losses to these teams, I mean, I know the Hawks is probably not a good example because they're below 500 now, but
Or
I
nine? Yeah.
yeah, which is always a good sight to see. But going into the season, we all thought, at least I did, that they were going to be better. So we've seen them get off the slow starts against these teams, whether it be the Hawks, Nuggets, the Bulls, and who's the other loss against? I am blanking on that one. Um,
Um,
Somebody good, the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. Yeah.
So we've actually seen the Mavericks get off to slow, mediocre starts, and they just can't keep up because there's a discrepancy in talent. So I'm not sure the Mavs will be able to hang with these good teams as the season progresses. And to answer your second question, I think in this upcoming stretch, they'll be able to steal the game against Denver, and they'll be able to split the two series against the Suns and the Clippers. So that's what I think is going to happen, but I could be wrong.
No, I totally agree with you. I think they have a better matchup against the Nuggets this week, especially coming in after a strong win. Um,
Mhm.
Now, again, I believe it's a prime time game. Yeah.
I
Um,
believe so.
so the Mavericks haven't done well under the spotlight.
No,
This this season. So it should be
no, they're 0-3, right? I mean,
yeah,
because the
yeah.
Hawks, the Heat,
He,
and the Nuggets.
yep. And
Yep.
the Nuggets matchup again. Again, I do believe they really have to command the paint coming this
Mhm.
Monday, and that's a little bit of our preview talk right here too. But it's they're gonna struggle tremendously if they cannot put a body on Jokic and defend him.
Right.
Um, Now Jokic can also throw his elbow, whatever, at you with your back turn, but let's not get into that because I think
Mhm.
he's pretty good friends with a lot of the people on the Mavericks.
He is. He is. He's good friends with Luca and Boban.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I agree with you there. I actually this is a very tough stretch. If we just quickly look, I know we discussed it last episode, but Nuggets, Suns, Clippers, Wizards, Cavs. That's like this is a
Tough
very
stretch.
scary stretch coming up. Yeah, they need to split. They really need to, like. I know I did pose a question of like who could they but now looking at it like this, they need to split at least between the Suns or Clippers. I believe they're going to get swept by one of those teams. Like if they don't split between the Clippers, they're going to get swept by the Suns or vice versa.
Mhm.
But I do like the chances against the Nuggets. But you never know. You could beat the Nuggets, feel a little bit better about yourself. It's at home, and then you go on and you steal the first game against the Suns, and then you lose the
Yep.
second. Same thing goes for the Clippers, right? And this team has shown that they do not like to lose back to back.
Right.
So that's always under either Carlisle and I guess Kidd now. That's something that this team doesn't like to do. So something to definitely look out for. And I'm going to go ahead and say with you, I think the Nuggets, this next game, it feels a little bit different. This is the first game I think they'll be able to turn around. Now, to go along with what else you said, it's still going to be a struggle throughout the whole season. I don't think until we hit the stretch of April, they might be able to beat some good teams consistently. But by then, it might be just too late.
Right. But by then, it might be too late. But I definitely want to acknowledge that the Mavs have beaten the mediocre or bad teams this far. And it's actually something they struggle with over the last season or two. I mean, we saw them struggle to beat teams like the Kings last season. They lost all 3 games to Sacramento, and we also saw them struggle against really, really bad teams that they shouldn't have lost over the past year. So I actually think we should, as Mavs fans, note that as an improvement from what we've seen in the past 2-3 years.
And you know what? I hate to say this, but if you keep losing to good teams and still beating your bad teams, you're still going to have a 500 record. Just of how.
Oh yeah, I mean probably a bit better than that.
I mean, they're 8-4 right now, and for all the complaining we've done on here and then on the Mavs Twitter, at first I was like, oh, let's kind of pump the brakes, but there's been a couple panic modes within the season. This team is not bad; it's not good. We discussed this last week, but they're gonna make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They're just gonna. The West is so not up to
not up to par this season.
Not up to par. Yeah, I was blanking on that word. This season, and yeah, the Warriors are extremely scary. It's just as long as you don't get that 8 seed or whatever,
right.
or in that play-in, you don't have to play the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that if you go against like a Clippers team again without Kawhi, it could still be a close series. Now they're going to win and they're going to lose for the 3rd straight year. Who knows?
Sorry about that. I'm not sure if that was.
Oh, you're all good. But who knows? Moving on, I know, speaking of, though, of Coach Kidd, you had a question regarding him.
Yes, I do. I want to ask you, because you were a bit skeptical of the hire, were you, of Jason Kidd during the season? And would you say he's met your expectations this far? Has he exceeded them, or is he below your expectations so far? Because we've seen this team, I don't want to say look a little weird, but they've had a lot of games, even in their wins against some of these bad teams, where they gotten off just such sluggish and slow starts to where we won't see them score 10, 12 points in the first quarter until they're at least halfway through. So, I mean, how has Kidd met or not met your expectations so far?
Well, I think he's, from a standpoint, he's past my expectations in the sense of he's brought this team a lot closer together, more closer than I thought they could have gotten within the bubble in Orlando.
Oh, for sure.
A couple seasons back. But I just don't think – I still think he's trying to figure out as a head coach too, which in the preseason looked great, and I was praising him. But, I do believe it's some growing pains. I know this team can play to the best of its ability. We've seen Dorian Finney-Smith have a struggle and slow start. We've seen Reggie Bullock not play as he's being advertised and why they signed him. You can even throw in Sterling Brown, and some other role players. So, not a lot of it is on Jason Kidd because, he's putting these lineups together based on what he's seen over the past success. And it's just not working. Now, I think he's adjusting. Let's see what happens. They just sent down They just sent down Josh Green and Moses Brown to the Texas Legends. So let's see what the decision-making behind that. But he has, both surprised and surpassed my expectations and then underachieve on expectations on both fronts.
Interesting. I was just curious to see what your thoughts were. I honestly, I'm still getting used to him being on the sideline.
I was thinking
it just still hasn't hit yet.
It hasn't hit yet either. And it's just funny because he just looks like he's a player ready to go
Yeah, like he looks like he's ready to suit up.
board table and get checked in. Like
Yeah.
it's just so weird. And then the glasses are on. You're like, oh wait, he's not playing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still getting used to Jared Dudley being on the.
That's right. That's right. That does feel kind of strange, with all due respect to Jared Dudley.
But definitely interesting and seeing. Like I still think though, let's give them a benefit of the doubt. It's still 8-14. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
that's
they beat
pretty
bad
good.
teams, but they beat bad. Like could you consider Boston a good team? I guess that was their first good team that they beat.
Sure. I mean, I would, at least speaking on the success they've had over the past 4 or 5 seasons, I would.
So I mean, that could be just a blueprint for them. Now they didn't have their star player Jaylen Brown playing that
Right.
night, but we may be being a little too hard on this team, especially with Kid being in his first season.
Mhm. I
Now
agree.
the front office is a whole another thing and subject that we've
That is.
talked about and we can discuss later.
Mhm.
But I think for what the season has, what we've been through, ups and downs or whatever, I think the Mavs are in a good place.
So do I. I still believe this might be a hot. They will actually avoid the play and will be a top 6 seed
No,
when the
I believe
season's
that
over.
too. I don't think it's a hot take at all. I do believe that too. I think they need to avoid the plan again to
Oh,
avoid
absolutely.
playing the
Absolutely.
Warriors. Any chance of playing because the Warriors, like, I don't know if you saw last night's game against the Bulls.
I did. I saw the
It's
first half.
yeah, it got pretty ugly after that too.
It
Uh,
did. Yeah.
so the Warriors leading in scoring and defense. And still getting Clay and Wiseman back. It's
Mhm.
insane how good that team is.
Yeah, that Golden State team is good, and the Mavs still haven't played the Warriors yet, but they'll play them 3 times this season. So maybe we'll see them get 1 win against a so-called good team then.
Yeah, and they won't play him till January 5th. So hopefully they
Announced
figure
in the new
everything
year.
out. Yep.
Right.
But let's move on to hopefully a team that we're going to be seeing play in January as well, and those Dallas Cowboys coming off a rough loss against the Denver Broncos, something no one saw coming. A lot of bettors completely caught by surprise, not only by this Cowboys game, but a lot of other games. There on Sunday that played in Week 9 because there was a lot of upsets. Dallas, I think, being the biggest one in the sense of they completely looked like the Bulls last night with the Warriors.
Right.
They completely lost every aspect of the game, and not even just like lost by a close margin. They got beat down and slapped in the face.
They sure did. That's definitely a game if you're a Cowboys fan you don't want to look back on. And I know we were just talking about the Mavs beating teams that they should beat, but are the Cowboys falling into that trap too of not being able to beat teams like the Broncos that they should beat? I mean, I know they've only had less than a handful of losses this season, but I definitely didn't like, at least looking back on the highlight reel, I didn't like what we saw offensively from that team because the offensive firepower of the Cowboys, typically what most Cowboys fans and analysts refer to when you think about the Cowboys.
No, and I to go back to I think not even I didn't even mention the offensive line part of the game that the Cowboys really struggled on that front. They completely got outplayed. This is the first time we've seen offensive line completely struggle. I know Tyron Smith is out and will be out again tomorrow
Yeah.
against the Atlanta Falcons. But that was, I think, part of the reason Dak Prescott wasn't getting set, even though he had the most time out of in his career to throw.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed off. He was having to scramble. I mean that's a little misleading
That
because
is.
he was having to scramble and not get his feet set. And even after the game, Dak Prescott talked about how he wasn't set on that. It was just a very ugly game. We're not going to get into it too much, but a very ugly game. But I will say Michael Gallup is coming back.
He is.
They do lose Randy Gregory on the defensive side, so that might
Yep.
take a little
Might take a hit.
a little
Defensive.
big hit. DeMarcus Lawrence is on the horizon as well as Neville Gallimore coming
Mm-hmm.
probably a little 2 or 3 weeks out. But I wanted to ask you, Evan, what do the Cowboys have to do to make sure they don't have another game like this?
Well, this might sound a bit odd, but I actually think their secondary tighten up. I know we've talked about Trevon Diggs and his uh, just how well he's played so far this season and how well the secondary has played, but I thought the secondary looked a bit loose against Denver. So I definitely think the secondary needs to tighten up, especially in those slot receiver matchups. And also the offensive line, of course, needs to tighten up as well if we want to see the Cowboys beat a team like the Falcons tomorrow.
No, I totally agree there. Sorry about my phone. I totally agree
Oh,
there.
it's all good.
Trayvon Diggs has looked, I don't want to say horrible, but he's not looked good the past couple.
No, he's not. He's not.
And
And I don't want to single him out, but he's not
no,
looked the same.
Anthony Brown has looked amazing. Like if
Yes.
he's making him look like pretty good, Anthony Brown. But I think it's a sense of the success is getting to their head. I know they will never admit it. They'll say they're not looking at the media, but you do ride high when you're winning that much. And it is definitely good. And especially for a team like the Cowboys, where everything around you look around is prestigious facility, practice facility, the locker rooms, the people you're dealing with, everything is insane. So when you're winning, that just gets only 10 times better.
Yeah.
So that definitely got to their heads. And even as a fan, I feel like I'm not trying to say I'm spoiled or anything like that, or like everything I look around is prestigious, but in the sense of like I went in that game, and the Cowboys I told you before the show, the Cowboys got, stopped on 2 back-to-back fourth downs to end their drive. And credit to the Broncos. And I in my head was like, oh, we're still gonna win this game. Yeah, I should have confidence like that, but man, I even got slapped in the face because I was so confident and cocky, and it was a great wake-up call. And I believe, heading into this game against Atlanta Falcons, we're going to see them answer back.
I do hope the Cowboys answer back against the Falcons, but one thing I still am a bit skeptical on is Randy Gregory's absence defensively. I still think in terms of stopping the rush, I think that might be a bit difficult for the Cowboys tomorrow against the Falcons.
No, I definitely agree there. And we know Cordell Patterson has definitely had a breakout year. Everyone expected Mike Davis for the Falcons to take that role, but Patterson has been there every step and has proven that he is the lead back there, and he can do anything and everything there. I believe I saw a fun quote from him on Twitter. He was like, my mom, she worked 3 jobs while I was growing up, so why can I not play 3 positions?
Wow.
Running back, wide receiver, blocking. Like I loved that quote. I love that quote from him. So definitely some guys to root for on the Atlanta side, and that offense is pretty dangerous, I will say. People have kind of put and stashed Matty Ice under a rock, but he won NFC Offensive Player of the Week this previous week.
He did.
He's on a roll, and he has some weapons. I know they lost Calvin Ridley due to personal issues, and prayers out to him and whatever he's going through. Yeah. But they still have some really good weapons, that including Kyle Pitt.
They do. And I know you mentioned Cordell Patterson. I just think it's going to be difficult for the Cowboys to stop him on the line tomorrow.
It's going to be a shootout, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a shootout. Now, are the Falcons going to Falcons, or are the Cowboys going to Cowboys? And I think that's the storyline that we're going to in this in my head. I'm not going in with too much confidence, and with that, we'll lead into our predictions of the game. Evan, Sully, what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. What do you think happens in score prediction?
Well, I've alluded to this previously a bit, but I think it's still going to be a bit of a struggle for the Cowboys defensively, and it's going to be it's going to be tough, at least to stop Cordell Patterson. And the defensive line, at least from what I've seen over the past few games, even against the Vikings, I've not really liked what I've seen, and I think the Cowboys secondary still might struggle just a bit. I know Trayvon Diggs, as we previously said, hasn't played as good as he started the season too, and maybe his expectations were too high, but I think the Cowboys defense is going to let up just a bit. And so with that said, I'm going with the Falcons winning this game by a score of 31-17.
Oh, wow. So Cowboys don't even get to 20.
No, I don't think so.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I do believe this Falcons offense, as I just previously stated a couple of minutes ago, that it's going to be a tough matchup.
Mhm.
But I'm going to see kind of something similar to that Chargers game.
Yeah,
Cowboys are going to get a little bit more wiggle room, just in the sense of that Atlanta Falcons defense is not good.
true.
But I'm going to say along the lines of 23-17, Cowboys get a win.
That's fair.
All right. Well, there you guys heard it first. The Big D Live hosts give their predictions there on the Cowboys. And if you have anything else, Evan, I think that's going to do it for today's episode.
That's all I really have to say is that, I don't know, the Cowboys defense is still a bit suspect, in my opinion.
No, definitely they're going to really rely on DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory when he gets back.
Sure.
Neville Gallimore, as I mentioned again before, and those are going to be the heavy hitters. Those are their big acquisitions at the trade deadline that we're all looking for. They need to give a big boost to this defense, and probably going to need it badly on a stretch run at the end of the season. That I think it's going to come close. It's going to be a little bit closer now, but it's a pretty big game tomorrow, especially when you have to go to Kansas City the week after.
Right.
So a lot rides on this game for the Cowboys. But that's going to do it, guys, here today. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Big D Live. You can look at our page on Anchor FM and Spotify to see any of our previous podcasts and episodes, and then our YouTube channel as well. But that's going to do it. I've been Jake Cantu, and thanks again, Evan Sully, for tuning in and coming on the show. And we will catch you guys later.